How are you?
I'm excellent.
Okay.
uh, we are here tonight because we got so much stuff to talk about. But the question is for you to sit with tonight is where are you with your goals? Where are you at this junction? We February is moving through so quickly. We're in 2025. Where are you at this point? Are you showing yourself grace, love, and compassion? Are you taking time for yourself? Pause, relax, practice self care. Because as we all know, self care is so important. And not to everything that is luxurious, but your mental, your physical. Are you taking care of that aspect of yourself? Are you nourishing and nurture yourself fully that you can move in the level of alignment? Not just eating the great food. That's good because we have to nourish ourselves, which is very important. But what about the other aspects of our lives? Our spirituality, our physical activity, are we decluttering? How are we navigating our inner selves and our outer space? How are we in that? Are we letting go? Or are we continue to move things that it is wearing us down? Are we letting go? Because in order for us to move forward in life, we got to let some things go that is not serving us well. It's blocking us. It's hindering us from attaining the greatness that the world has to give us. Are you walking in your purpose? Are you feeling fulfilled? Do you have the mindset that is a growth mindset that you're open to receive new ideas, new information, learning new skills so that you can be better? Because every day we're growing. What about our self talk? What are we telling ourselves on a daily basis? Are we reminding ourselves who we are? Self awareness is so important. Are we leaning into in our inner wisdom and allowing that to be our guide so that we can function? We can show up with a level of confidence that when we walk into a room, we walk with a level of confidence, our vibration is great. We can actually change the energy in that room because you're walking with our power. What do you leave when you leave an environment? What do you leave when you leave a conversation? Do you uplift? You showing a level of gratitude, not only for others, but for yourself. Are you celebrating your wins, big or small? Because every step that we make towards our goal to achieve our dreams is important. We got a great lineup for you tonight. I'm Lady J, holistic health and wellness coach, author, and not forgetting to pick up our books that we have. Self care is intentional, and your gut in you. Please remind yourself that you are special and that you are amazing. So, the topic we have tonight is relationship, leadership, how important that is. And we got the amazing people in the house tonight that is going to give us the goods, give us the value, so that when you leave the space tonight, you got a lot of great takeaways that you can go with, share with your friends, your family, and that it can help you to uplift you too as well as a person. So I'm Lady J, and I'm going to hand you over to Lady K. Welcome
Hi,
to you all
hi.
amazing people.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to this real amazing panel that we have this evening. It's always good to come together in a community when we can share. Community is what helps us to grow.
Right.
And when we have a good community that we can come and we can share and to help others, That's a big plus. It's a big, big plus. And this evening, 246 Bajan Vibes, the video room or chat room, it's active now, and you can send messages and we'll see the messages live here. And if you have any questions, we will respond to the question. Someone in the panel will respond to the question. And what a good way to really the early part of the year to touch on this subject. Relationship and leadership. Because when you look at life, everything is a relationship in our lives. The first thing is a relationship with whatever is your religion, whatever is your spirituality. That's the first relationship that you're supposed to have. Then the relationship with yourself. Do you have any relationship with yourself? Because many times when we look ourselves in the mirror, we are dreading about our lives, and what kind of relationship you have around you, your community that is surrounding you. What type of relationship you have with that community?
Sure.
In your home, what type of relationship you have in your home? If you got a spouse, a fiance, a partner, whoever it is, do you have a relationship with that person? Do you have a relationship with your children? If you have children. So everything in our lives is a relationship. Relationship with money. Everything is relationship. And if you don't have a good relationship with those things, nothing is going to really be working good for you. So this word relationship is a very big word. It's not just a simple word, relationship with a husband, a wife, or a relationship with a sexual partner. It's broader than that. It's a broad spectrum in relationship. But this evening, we got such a beautiful panel lined up here, and we're going to dive deep into relationship. Let's come to leadership. How are you leading? How are you leading? How are you leading your life? That's the most important thing. How are you leading your life? So this evening, if you're here, you're at the right place at the right time. Because if you're looking for answers, I'm sure someone on this panel is going to give it to you this evening. So all that we need you to do right now, two things we're going to ask of you, is just to get a pen, a notepad, or even a scrap paper, and just sit back and just listen. You take what you want, you leave what you don't want. Because we are here this evening and we are here to help you. Enrichment of mind, body, and soul was created to help you, the community, whereby every week we can bring a guest on to fulfill and to help you to walk along this journey called life. So this evening, I don't really want to take up much time because we got so much things to really give you this evening. And as I said before, it's a buffet style, like our friend Terrence would say. It's a buffet style, and we're going to feed you this evening. So make sure you're hungry.
And we got a chef in
well
the
fed.
house.
You're going to be well fed this evening.
Yes. Amen.
So make sure that you're hungry. Hungry. So you know what? As I said, I'm not going to take up much more of the time. I hope you continue to do your journaling. I hope you continue to pause and doing some self-reflection on your life and see exactly where your life is heading. And if there are things in your life that you need to eliminate, this is a perfect time for you to eliminate it. If there are relationships in your life that you need to eliminate, this is a perfect time to eliminate it. Because you know what? You have to look after you. You come first, and you need to look after you. Make yourself special. Make yourself feel worthy. So if there are things, if you got clutter in your home or clutter in your life, and you need to get rid of it, it's time for you to do it. It's time for you to do it. So let's get this ball rolling right now. So we want to welcome each and every one of you here this evening and taking the time out, because I know it's Super Bowl, and taking the time out to join us. But you know what? when Super Bowl is over, we still got to talk about these subject matters, right? We
Right.
still got to talk about relationship. We still got to talk about leadership. So if you know someone this evening who could benefit from this podcast, kind of just share us out. Just share us out. So to the panel, welcome each and every
Well,
one of you.
let's give them a round of
Welcome,
applause.
welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
So let me toss the mic now to Curtis. Curtis, take the mic.
Welcome, Curtis.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's absolutely a pleasure being here. As you see on the screen, my name is Curtis Brooks. I'm a men's life coach specializing in transformational leadership. So super excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for
Will,
being here.
Okay, I'm Will Williams. I'm a transformational speaker. I'm also into tech and that kind of stuff. Broad spectrum of, you name it, I'm kind of into it. Sports, media. But anyway, I would like to thank this panel for letting me be a part of the panel tonight. I thank both ladies for hosting this show. This is going to be a very insightful and good show to talk about. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. Once we get started, I have my little notes and I'm ready to go. So thank you for letting me be a part of it. And welcome to everybody
thank you,
that's here.
Will.
Yeah, welcome, Sheila.
Michelle?
Oh, sorry.
Well, hi, I'm Sheila Ramos. Before I tell you about me, it is a thank you to both Lady K and Lady K. We got Tommy backstage. You guys are the prime example of the definition that, support leadership in leadership. You guys welcome all, unbiased, non-judgmental. You give us a space to be vulnerable. You lead by example. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to just even be here with you guys tonight. So that is just first and foremost, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
think it's like, for me, it's like mentor, sister, aunt, friend. It is so much this is home. I could be in your presence, it's home. And that for me just gets us to this. Like, I'm the founder of Don't Race Statistics. It is a very strong mission for global impact, systemic change, resiliency within communities. They're not resilience and advocacy are not badges that honor I wear. They are titles that the outside world has given me. And there's been a transition phase in learning how to not abuse that and to live by it in a sense that I do better, give better, and not take it for granted. Because I think a lot of people mistake the darkness you must endure, to come out with the stories at the end of it that are, how did you do it? So with that, I am also the visionary architect of Legacy Rebirth. Is one of my older projects that's coming to an end, but the coming to the end is just the beginning, so to say. And I'm a mom, first and foremost. But I'm sure we'll get into more later.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you,
April?
Michelle.
Hi, everyone. I am April Fontenot, and I just want to say I am happy to be back. I recognize everyone's faces from Thanksgiving. I think the last time I was here it was your birthday, right?
Yes, it was my
Right,
birthday.
exactly, yes.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I had a good time. But I'm April Fontenot. I'm like you, Michelle. I wear many hats. I'm a mother of four, first and foremost. Well, really five because we have a bonus son, but mother of four. Um, I have a food delivery and catering business, Coopy's American Cuisine and seafood. I'm sorry. And I just started a podcast, a month or two ago, Let's Talk Food podcast. And how that got started, it was brewing and stirring in the pot for years, but I finally had the mustard seed of faith to go ahead and start it. And thank you to you, ladies.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I was like, this seems like it's pretty fun, So
Right.
yeah, I'm doing that. But first and foremost, I just want to thank you, ladies. Like I'm piggybacking off Michelle. I mean, you are so inspirational, and I mean the most loving, kind ladies I've known in my life. I mean, you remind me of my late great mom. But I thank you so much for everything that you've done and I'm happy to be back. And hi, everyone.
Thank you for being here. Congratulations on your podcast
Yeah,
and all the amazing,
congratulations.
amazing things you're doing.
Sheila?
Welcome, Sheila.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sheila Balgobin, and I'm known as the Dream Decipherer. I'm a sleep and dream coach specializing in dream interpretation. It's what I teach people. I teach people how to work with their dreams and pull out what I call the gold in the gobbledygook of their dreams, or what is apparent gobbledygook. It's actually quite logical um, if you know how to crack the code of your dreams. So, and I'm thrilled to be back here again. I've had the opportunity to join in a panel discussion before, and it was a wonderful experience. So I'm looking forward to this discussion this evening on leadership and our relationship with not only ourselves but with everyone else. So I think it'll be a great discussion.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you so much. It's great to have you back as
Yeah,
well. Dr.
beautiful.
Marcy?
Marcia.
Good night, everyone. I'm having the flu. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
We
we're
can
hearing
hear
you
you.
loud and clear.
It's a distinct pleasure to be here among these erudite, experienced, energetic, and charismatic folks. I I want to congratulate you, April, on your podcast, and Curtis on the good job you're doing with your men.
Thank you.
Community.
Homes. It's a community that is well needed, especially for Christian men. You don't know what you have been called to do, and I want you to take it very seriously.
Thank
I
you.
know it might sound a little cliche, but especially now when men need to support each other as heads of the
Mhm.
the crisis, the fear, the abject shock that is on everyone at this time. Men are more fearful now that they might not be able to take care of their families or themselves, and so it's a challenge. And I want to also admire Will for all the effort he makes into putting out what he actually puts out to build and to strengthen and to nourish a community. That's very important. But most of all, I want to thank also. I hear you, Michelle. I see what you're doing, and I feel that you are touching lives more than you even know. The impact you are making is far-reaching, and sometimes we don't know what we are doing because we are not doing it to be seen. We are doing it because it is a calling. It is a
Mm.
Yes.
commission that we have been given, and our niche are different, and also for everyone else who is here, transformational, and also for sleep. Sleep is so important. I have not been sleeping, Sheila, for these nights because my son has been critically ill and it took a
Mm.
toll on me. I didn't know how much toll it took until recently when I went to the doctor, and I have never had high blood pressure in my life. And
Mm.
they said my pressure was normal high. I don't know if there's anything as normal high, but they say it is normal high. And so I am confused about that. I know it has gone down since I have been told because I'm so careful about that I went into mass fixing. And so I did all the herbs and drank all the drink that would put it down. Just wanted to be clear that I'm out there. But since I have overcome that, the flu has touched me greatly. But for those who don't know me, I want to say I am Dr. Marcia. I'm a Christian leadership, life, and career coach. I really help women over 40 who have built took years building their career, but still feel unfulfilled, feel guilty without knowing why, what crime they have committed, because there is just something more that they feel that they should be doing, and they really can't understand what it is because we have learned how to work, but we have not learned how to be fulfilled. And so I pull them back into that and take them out of the comfort illusion and the productivity illusion that you must get another job, you must get another degree, you must upskill, you must be doing more all the time instead of doing what you love and what you were created to do and solving the problem that you were created to solve. And so I work with those persons. I am extremely grateful to Joan and Karen for their support on and offline. and also for including me in this conversation tonight. Of course, you will understand that as a leadership and life consultant, relationships are extremely important to me. And I want to take the opportunity to also let everyone know that I am having my Walking Your Anointing group coaching session where I on the 26th of February as a post-Valentine treat. So the price is cut in half to be exact. And I'll be helping persons to use their spiritual gifts, align that to their career and their lives, and profit from it for fulfillment and profit. That's it. I think I've said enough, or maybe too much.
No, you're good. We thank you so much, Dr. Marcia, because what you do is so special. You uplift others, you support, you enlighten us, you help us all to be better. So we want to thank you too, as well as you thank everybody and outline what everyone is doing. We want to thank you, and we wish you wellness and feeling much better. But we thank you for your support, even to be here this evening with us, even though you have the flu, and we wish you everything that you wish yourself in wellness. I'm glad that you touch on uh, Curtis, because he's going to talk to us a little bit more later on the community that he has put together, which is so amazing. Or if you want to talk about it now, Curtis, before we jump into the discussion deeper. We can't hear you.
I apologize. No, I was saying that I am ready to get into the discussion. We can talk about that later. Let's go.
Okay, good. Well, you lead the discussion.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, boy.
That's what I get for asking, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
You gotta remember who you're talking to,
Yeah,
between-
absolutely.
Hi, Annie.
Well, as you all know, once again, my name is Curtis Brooks. I'm a men's life coach specializing in transformational leadership for men. And I like to start off about relationships. And I think relationships, as was stated earlier, relationships are hugely important. And I think the leadership absolutely ties into the relationships as well, without a shadow of a doubt. And you can't lead if you have not figured out how to work the relationships.
Right.
It's going to be absolutely impossible. And I think that, and I'm just going to share some things, and obviously would want to hear your each of your feedbacks on it, and just as we carry the conversation, but relationships are absolutely important. And I believe I am a Christian man as well, a huge Christian man, and I am acting out my role. I'm working out my role. I'm walking this thing. So it's not just a matter of just conversation. Oh, I'm a Christian. No, I work this thing out. I'm working this thing out daily. And so I do understand that, again, relationships are greatly important. And the first relationships that we must master is our family. And unfortunately, just life, people just families can be challenging, relationships can be challenging as it is, but without them, we can't lead ourselves or lead others. So I'll leave it there and just want to hear from what anyone else has to say.
Okay. I guess. Okay, I'll jump in. I guess we'll get the men out of the way first.
No, we're here to stay, brother.
Okay, that's strong words there.
Yes,
Got a lot of women in this panel.
Yes, sir.
But I'd like to talk a little bit about. I'm gonna back up on what you just said there. I've been studying this for the last couple of weeks. I had some interest in trying to, I guess, catch up a little bit on the dynamics between the sexes, right? To where there's some discussion going on, especially online, where these communities have popped up and they're going strong with, us against them. And so a lot of these things, I found that even on TikTok, for instance, I found some insightful an interesting topic, conversation about relationships, right? And this one particular one stood out to me. And it suggested that, and this is what I think women are also looking for, but men are as well. But it said that men, for instance, wanted to have their cake and eat it too, so to speak. So they wanted to be like a husband, but not a husband. And so they were saying that basically the women were looking for commitment, support, emotional support, and of course money, okay, financial support. And so the men were pushing back, with this, what do you bring to the table slang that they've come up with now. And that's what they're going back and forth on, is who's bringing what to the table. But in the dynamics of that, both have to have an idea of who they are before they can even talk about a deep, relationship like that.
Sure.
And I think we've kind of lost in this transition period that we're going through as a society globally. I think some of this has been lost to where the men don't know exactly what they want per se. And then the women are saying, well, I kind of know what I want, but I kind of don't know what I want too. And, like from my own experience, I'll speak for myself. I found that my engagement, and I'm single man, so I've talked to women from all over the world. And what I've gathered is in some situations, there's a such thing as a bride price. You have to get involved with that aspect of it. If you're going to date a certain woman, she's going to ask for a bride price. And for me, I found it interesting because I had never been to that level of it before. I've talked to a lot of women, but not for a bride price. And when you get into that, you find out that it's very real and serious too, And so that dynamic is what a lot of men haven't experienced, and they don't even know anything about that culture because they haven't experienced that. They don't, you talk about a bride price, like what is that? A bride price? What do you? So, and it's not for any little like $10,000-$15,000. We're talking about 100,000 plus is what these women are talking about. I've talked to women from China, from Africa, you name it. I've kind of had conversations. So. But it differs, and it's a difference in every culture. But a lot of these situations were where the women were, I guess that they weren't exactly interested in starting a relationship right off the bat per se. They were more like, okay, can we grow into a friendship and then grow? If we're going to become friends, we can grow into a relationship from there. But they also wanted me to invest into them to prove that I was going to stay, right? You see, so there's some money tied to this, to where either I had to make an investment in some kind of, financial arrangement that they were involved in. So that way, if I had my money tied up with them, then I couldn't leave, right? Or I wouldn't want to leave because I'd have to leave with a certain amount of money behind too. So I found it interesting from those perspectives that it's different in every culture, and I think that it's not so much that they're one culture versus, the men from their particular community. This is everywhere. And so when you start crossing over, you start to find that what you thought wasn't going on somewhere else actually is going on. So it's not quite as simple as what people think it is. But as far as to actually, I guess, get deep into a relationship, now it's going to have to be something that both parties. And I'll counter with this too, because I know some of the women are probably going to want to address this. I countered with some of those offers I had into a transactional contract, right? I treated it like it was business. I said, okay, since we're going to do this, then why don't we come up with an agreement for a contract in this thing then, if we're going to exchange like that? So that way, if either one of us want to leave per se, then the contract has stipulations in it to where there's penalties and fees. And so that way we stay, if we get married, we stay out of court with this. We already have come to a conclusion of what we want to do and how to do this. And so they were game for it. A few of them were, they were open to reading the contracts, and I had some drawn up for a couple of them, and they read it, and You know, yeah, they all of a sudden at that point saying, okay, wait, hold on now. How come we get this is kind of like a prenup, right? I said, no, it's a transactional contract. That's what it is. I'm just trying to save us the drama in the court fees that we would have to pay in case we got married. And so they didn't understand it from that perspective. But I think that we're going into a period where that kind of contract is going to be part of what we're talking about, a relationship. It's going to be more like a business, which is like what it's always been. But I mean, we need to as a society, we're growing forward, and a lot of things that used to be traditional are going to be left behind. And so we're doing the transition into that. People are going to be lost just like they are right now with the job situation and so forth, which we're going to cover, and also the leadership situation. A lot of this, and when you talk about the leadership aspect of it, is when you bring in something like this forward, it's showing leadership, but if you're not accustomed to that type of leadership and you don't really know what that is, then you feel a little foreign from that, so you're not so much invited in all the way at that point. Now, I'll close with this. Some of these women that I engaged with, they're some of them had, they were from single parent homes where the father or the mother had died and so forth. But the parent liked me, so they were engaged with me to where they really wanted us to, take the steps forward and go ahead and really make it work. But then the women per se were not all the way on board because they wanted more. And so I found that, and we discussed this in the last panel discussion that we kind of had when we had a different panel. What was brought to the table, and I've discussed this with Karen and Joe before we had a conversation about this, is the control factor in this. I found too that some of the women, and I'm not a controlling person, so even though I lead and I have organizations where I'm per se the leader, I don't have an ego to where I feel like I need to be that all the time or be in that position, right? So I'm open to just hearing what you have to say, and I'll take your advice. And if it makes sense, let's do it.
Right.
But what I found is a lot of these women per se were coming back to me and saying, okay, look, this is how we're going to do this. If we're going to do this, this is how it's going to go. I'll let you show your leadership outside of the house, but when you come home, I'm going to lead everything, and that's the way it's going to be. And so there were discussions in that area too. So this is going to be an insightful conversation by the time we get through with going around the table here. So I'll cut it off right there and join back in as we go. Speechless.
Pretty interesting.
Wow.
Wow.
I thought Lady Karen Lady did right. I'll jump in after you guys. I would love to hear y'all's feedback.
Oh my God, this is pretty interesting. The bride price.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback off of you, Will. I agree. I've heard from some guy or a guy friend rather, that the women are not. It's not like how it used to be. You're right. It's more like transactional, and it's just not. And no one, following tradition anymore. It's more so like I've heard they were saying, oh, instead of going out on a date right now, it's more so like, what bill can you pay? How many bills can you pay, and then we can go on a date. And I think it's pretty sad, the things that are going on, and I just hope that my children don't, follow in those footsteps, or my daughters rather. But I totally agree. I think that it's just. It's sad, and you would think that, the women are being raised properly, but I know you said they were in single parent homes, and even though some of us are raised in single parent homes, you still know better, so I don't know, it sounds kind of like a rent-a-bride to me. A rent-a-girlfriend or wife or something, and I'm so sorry you have to go through that, but I mean, you deserve better, Will. You deserve better.
True.
And I like I said, I definitely agree with that. And then also speaking about when they're, kind of controlling, I've heard that a time or two in my house. So I'm not controlling, but sometimes I do feel like everybody in my house is saying, "Oh, you're so bossy," and you want to run the household. And I hear that from my husband as well. But we don't mean any harm. The women like me.
Right.
We don't mean any harm, okay?
I got you. I mean, I have three sisters, so I sort of know how this goes. You know,
Yeah, I
I grew up
understand.
with three sisters, so yeah, I understand it quite well. Let me mention this before the next person come in or you complete your thing there. I've had, and it's some women have said this publicly on LinkedIn. You know, there's pretty high profile that they're on LinkedIn all the time posting things. Now they've said that in their household they're multimillionaires at this point, right? So they were saying that they didn't mind being the breadwinner of the relationship or the marriage, right? And so that the husband or the boyfriend who's engaging with them, uh, just kind of fall in line and just go along with the program because they didn't mind being the breadwinner, so they didn't see it as an unbalanced relationship, so to speak. They was figuring if they were making over $1 million plus, and he's making whatever he's making, it's not compared to what they're doing. So they were like, I'm okay with that. And so I don't know how the guy would feel in that situation over time, but they were saying that for the current time being, that their relationships were fine. And I'm sure some women that would probably be okay in a situation like that, but in these little boxes that these cultures are operating through, some of that wouldn't probably fly. Like, for instance, and I'll just say this and I'll shut up. In the I just put it out in the Chinese community, for instance, you have women who are multimillionaires, but they call them leftover women, right? When they hit their 30s, they're calling them old women now. And I didn't understand the concept of when you just because you turn 30 now you're an old woman some type of way, but that's their culture. And so you have all these women who have money, houses, property. They have whatever you think you need. They already have that, but they can't get a man in their culture that meets their standard because their standard is so high. And so they're basically putting themselves, in a marketplace that's really small. And then you said, like in my situation, for instance, a couple of them had never interracially dated, but they found me interesting enough to want to, engage with me to see if it would work. So, okay, well, we'll see if we can be friends, or whatever happens from there, we'll see. And so it's just interesting that a lot of this is coming from for people just have not found their way and understand what life actually, I guess, is to some degree. They kind of gotten it tied into materialism, and in this country,
Yes.
of course, the country runs like that. So our system is kind of flipped upside down to where in America it's always been a materialistic country, but we've kind of symbolized all this fake stuff to try to tell people, well, it's about money, but it's not about money, but yeah, that's all it is, so it's just confusion to some degree to some people, and in other ways it's an interesting thing. Go ahead.
Well, if I could add this really quick, it's not confusion. It's the enemy trying to manipulate the premises and the basis of what relationship is.
Yeah, the purity.
Right.
So
Right.
it is absolutely not confusing.
Right.
It's the devil at work. And I apologize if we didn't intend on getting into the spiritual piece of it, but it is absolutely the devil at work, and he is trying to manipulate relationships. He wants
Distort
to
the picture.
control the relationship.
Very
So
much so.
when we
I want
understand,
to.
go ahead, Dr. Marcia, go ahead.
I just wanted to, I am agreeing with you, Curtis, but I also wanted to make the point that all relationships start off as a transaction.
Right.
The moment you meet
Yes.
someone, it is really
Absolutely.
transactional. And so you might have been exchanging a goods or services or even a product. It can also be a simple smile by saying yes. It can be passing through a door that somebody holds open. It starts as a transaction, and then there's
Right.
such a lingering because there's an impression that is
Mhm.
left on you because you open yourself, whether it is through desperation or being too long on the shelf or
Right.
loneliness or convenience. A lot of
You should drop.
Can't hear it now.
persons
Dr.
enter
Marcia.
those relationships.
Okay.
When you so if you find that you have to persist in a transactional mode, it means that something has gone seriously wrong, and that someone has not gripped the wheels, and someone is not being honest enough, not being authentic is not enough, not being transparent enough, not being honest enough. And sometimes it is the both persons, and it is based on your experience, and it's based on how you were taught or groomed or cultivated to feel
Right.
that people must be givers or receivers. And it's not just in male relationships. Our children, sometimes in our relationship as leaders in our homes, we groom our children not to do without, meaning that as they call, we answer. And that is also a distortion, Curtis. That's not biblical. We are to teach our women to be virtuous, and we are to teach them to fend and to manage their fears, that a
Absolutely.
man who is really priest and protector and provider in his home, and the respect and the mutual trust and open obedience that he commands, because he understands who he is and who he's representing and what his role is. And it is really not dependent on
Yes.
how people respond to what you're doing,
Yes.
because if a woman is not being loving and gentle and caring, it does not make you a woman or less than a man.
Right.
If a man does not carry out his responsibility, he does not become a female. He is still a man. He's just a worthless man, or a
Yes.
man that has not gripped it, or a man who is missing in action,
Right.
but he's still a man. And so
True.
we want to make those differentiations clear. And so when you know who you are and what it is
True.
that you present and what you want to be remembered for, then nobody dictates how you operate with them. If you cannot have a merging, if your spirit, your mind, and your soul does not match, then do not prolong in a relationship out of convenience, or
True.
because
True.
you are in a transaction, or you feel that the sex is
True.
good,
True.
So true.
or the benefits are there. No, move along, because you are actually cultivating something in your spirit that makes you become so diminished that you settle for transactional relationships,
Mm.
because someone must all you must always be benefiting, and you see that benefit. And females have been grown and developed to do that, because
Yes.
a lot of, and even the traditional mode, April, there were parents who, if you go into certain traditions, they have to take this bride price, they have to take all sorts of exorbitant
Mhm.
things and so on. There are persons who encourage you to find a woman that is already made, has an education, is able to carry in a certain amount, because you'll get you ahead. But I know persons, for example, my grandmother, God rest her soul, who died many years ago at the age of 80, was a real helpmate to my grandfather. And he was the only one working, and they had 11 children, and their children went to college. And it is because my grandmother was able to manage his money. Yes, and prevent him from wasting his money, and cutting and carving and putting it together,
Right.
and being able to sew, and being able to cook properly, and being able to guide the children, and being able to help them to do homework, and to do all of those things
Mm-hmm.
that made them become valuable, hardworking, principled people in society, and pass it on to their children. And
Absolutely.
so it relationships and our experiences build us at a certain point. When it passes the transaction and gets to a relationship where we really care about each other, then
Mm-hmm.
we are concerned and consumed with making the next person happy. And that
Yes.
person is consumed with making the next person happy. So it becomes a
Yes.
balanced
Right.
interface of making each
Yes.
other happy. Now, if we miss that, and we teach our children by virtue of our habits, being upset with persons in the home who don't provide at a certain time, call them all sorts of names. When we go through our hardships, we make
True.
exchanges,
True.
and we push along. Our children become discordant notes. Some
Mm-hmm.
feel that
Mm-hmm.
they are entitled, some feel that
Yes.
you're not good enough. Some can't hold a relationship
Yes.
because the relationship is based on what they can receive and not on what they can give. And some persons become so narcissistic in relationship that
Mm-hmm.
they will never leave the relationship until they can destroy you. And
Yes.
some of them, even when they leave the relationship, they are hell bent on destroying you, that they can never be happy with anybody else, because they make this
Yes.
comparison, because they carry these baggages with them,
Right.
because they are carrying themselves. They're disconnected, selfish spirits that cannot be reconciled unless they become givers. Because
Yeah.
if you have been receiving all your life and you don't know how to give, that is a challenge that you must overcome to become a whole person that is
Yes.
fit to be in a relationship. So some persons, it is best to love them at a distance
Yes.
because they themselves cannot receive the
Yes.
love that you are giving to them. They don't know how to receive love
Absolutely.
because they have
That's true.
Absolutely.
never been able to give love. And in their
Absolutely.
relationship and growing up, they always have to serve their parents. They had to please the father for the school fee to be paid. They had to do things in the home with the grandmother and the mother so they could be accepted and affirmed. And so they are now in that position. So they really can't receive love. You can't help those persons. They have to help themselves.
Right.
They have to recognize that they need help and get help. And so you translate this much further now when you become a leader in your schools, in your organizations, in your industries, in your home, because trust is one of the greatest things about relationship. Trust
Right.
and being able to rely on those who we trust. And when we can't trust ourselves, we can't trust our children. We make these children become so nervous around us because we are not investing in them. And that's a terrible thing when we don't invest in those who we love, when we don't develop who we love, when we don't prioritize who we love, when we don't support who we love, when we don't build those persons who we love, because some of us break down the people who we love because we don't know how to love. And,
True.
and that's
True.
where really I maybe would want to stop because
No,
Woo!
we need
Dr.
to
Marcia,
see. Yes, sir.
you have said a lot, and I agree with almost everything you said, except one thing, that men are worthless. We're not worthless. So I can absolutely appreciate what you're saying.
It's just the
But,
descriptions that they give. I was just looking at the
oh,
description.
okay. All right.
And so when I talk
Thank
about
you for clearing, thank you for
worthless,
clearing that up. I appreciate
I
that.
talk about worthless in the context of men who don't understand what it means to be priests,
Yes.
Well,
providers, and protectors of
it,
their
it,
homes. So
True.
they are not worthless in themselves. They are worth something. And that is a fact. We are not saying that. But
right.
what is the true worth of any man either?
Hey,
So
Exactly.
you
Jarvis.
are not worthless. You choose to be missing in action. And so you have that guilt carrying all your life. And that guilt can make you not move into the direction to add value
Right.
or to become better.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a lot there, Dr. Marcia. It really is, because I think that I mean, truly, there's a lot there, because there are a lot of conditions, situations, and again, it's not advocating for men who just don't do anything at all. That's not the point of it. The point of it is that uh, many of us have grown up without the template of perhaps even another man in the house. You know, having
Right.
True.
a mother that does the right thing, and things of that nature. So these templates and examples are absolutely important, and without them, we're nearly 100% of the time going in the wrong direction without the right template. And I can't say 100% of the time, but nearly 100% of the time or closer to 100% of the time, we're likely to go in the wrong direction. So these templates are absolutely important, and without them, we're misguided, we're misled, we're in most cases operating in a place of low self-esteem.
Right.
So it is hugely essential for us to see, as men and even as women, to see other women who are confident, to
Yeah.
see other women who take care of themselves. And much in the same fashion, it is important for men to see other men who are confident in taking care of themselves, not mastering over people or their wives, over their kids, but confident, and where they're showing where they are sharing a love to the community, to the people they care about, and even to the people don't care about them. There's still a love and a concern for them, but you learn how to deal with those relationships. We've been talking about relationships. So if we can learn how to deal with the relationships that don't always benefit us, because every relationship is not going to benefit us.
I
But
think
True.
this is where I want to jump in.
okay, go ahead. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Come on, Michelle.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
just before
This
you
is
jump
so
in, Michelle,
great.
I want to make a very good point though that there are some people, Curtis. There are some homes where men are so present that their females, their daughters can't live with any other man. So we have to be guarded on that too. The expectations are so high that they
Sure,
become
sure.
very toxic to other men.
I can appreciate
Yes.
that.
because they are feeling that these men must become their
Yes.
fathers, and
Mhm.
you're not married to your father. You are not in a relationship with your father.
Absolutely. Michelle, take the floor.
I think so. First of all, I just want to say that
Hi,
everything everybody
Travis.
is saying so far, it's amazing. I don't disagree. I can't even say there's probably something that I would have just thrown to the trash. I obviously like to make eye statements, so I could say that where I listen to y'all spirituality, religion, your that alignment. I know that I have a faith that's unwavering because I was not raised in a church. I have not read a Bible. I don't. It's because I have survived situations and been through trials and tribulations that if there isn't a creator or something greater, there's no reason for me to be alive. So my faith is deep rooted in just perseverance and just having to always get up and go forward. And where everything everybody is saying, what I can say is getting through the types of scenarios that I have been through. It is with the relationship. It's got to be first of all with yourself. You have to know you. You have to be unwavering in what you say, what you do. Your words and actions should always align. You need to be prepared to be telling the truth and still need to bring receipts because they will call you a liar. When
Amen.
you are that true and tried, like every ounce of your being will be questioned. So at the end of the day, with that being said, when I am standing in my unapologetic, unfiltered, raw truthness, I'm never going to waver from it. So the relationship with myself will outweigh any relationship beside that. And then with that being said, it leads to the leadership piece. You have to align them actions with words. You can be in collaborations and meetings and all these other frontiers with all these words and intention. And words are great, but that commitment to follow through and the accountability to back up your words with what you said, those are two different things.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
always used to think that communication was key, but it's really the comprehension. I can't make somebody comprehend what I'm trying to say. I can do my best to try to maybe articulate it in a different analogy or reword it. But what I said is what I said. And you have to stand true in that. And with that being said, there was recently some conversations with different people. They call everybody friend. And I hate that. I try not to, I dislike that. I mean, everybody are my friends.
Yeah.
I got neighbors. I got acquaintances. I have community members with limited access to or more. Like I believe that you should be very purposeful when you label somebody a friend because for me, friends are more important than family because I don't have family in the tradition of what people think. So I think that it's a mindset. You have to like be set to where you be in this growth mindset that sometimes the growing means bending. Sometimes it means you could be the problem too. But if you can stand unwavering and you can fully back up what you say, then you should stand first saying that you're not the problem and you need to remove the weight of the problem. I had to learn to stop fighting battles that weren't mine to fight. The battles that I am fighting, I might not know who it is that's going to help me get to them because I know that it's much bigger than myself. But I know that when I live in transformational intent versus transactional intent, the path is always guided and I'm always brought to a door of somewhere I was meant to be. And I mean, that, I guess for right now, where we're at with relationship to leadership, it's you got to stay true and don't just stay true to your word. Because I don't, people will say you always give trust. Right? No, see, for me, it's probably after you have to earn my trust. I'll give you the uttermost respect from day one. I will not trust you day one. I will not. And it's no, but I don't apologize for who I am. I've been burned that many times to know I got to protect me because if I don't protect me and grow for me, I ain't going to raise this little girl to be who she's meant to be. And at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Absolutely.
Sheila?
Sheila. Thank you, Michelle.
Love that
I
share.
applaud that.
Powerful.
I think I mean, from what everyone has been saying, in essence, it all comes down to our relationship with ourselves.
Yes.
Now I work with dreams. I teach people how to work with their dreams and to find what I call the gobbledygook in their dreams. Dreams have their own language and their own way of presenting information. And that will differ from person to person because it's about us and from us, and therefore it's pertinent to us and not to anyone else. And being able to understand ourselves, and our deepest desires and thoughts and fears and everything else is essential, because all relationships start with the relationships that we have with ourselves. And if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, we're not going to have a good relationship with anyone else. So my premise is that we need to start looking within. I find that when I work with clients that they often, all of us, not just my clients, but all of us have a tendency to give our power away. Our doctors, our lawyers, our preachers, our teachers, every bloody body gets our credence and our faith and our belief, and we don't believe ourselves.
Right.
If something comes up to us, whether it be awake or asleep, we discount it. Oh, that can't be right. That's not good. That's false information. Why? Why can't we believe ourselves first and foremost and fortify ourselves first and foremost before we start to give credence and belief to everything everybody else feeds to us? And I think that because we live such externalized lives, if it looks good and it sounds good, it must be good. And that's not the case, because as the Bible says, they're whited sepulchres. It looks good, but there's corruption and decay underneath, but it looks good. Right. And I think that it takes a lot of strength and fortitude to be able to look at ourselves honestly and deeply, and not just skim along the surface. Yes. To be able to have relationship with ourselves in an honest way. And then who we are, we see the world as who we are. So if we're seeing ourselves from a false premise, we're going to see everybody else from a false premise as well.
Absolutely.
I just want to piggyback with that real quick. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying, I feel that your securities, when you're secure with yourself, it brings out others' insecurity. You got to be strong with what you're describing. You got to be committed and strong to walk in that path, because there's going to be times when you get questioned or you're finding yourself in situations.
You're going to get all the slings and arrows. Absolutely. And you get the slings and arrows and the and the dissing and everything else thrown at you when you stand in your power, because you make other people see their own inadequacies, and they don't like that.
Yes.
So, it takes strength to be who you are. Yeah. I mean, I laugh because I've been thinking about my father named me at birth the Little Maverick, his Little Maverick. And, I don't know if that's nature or nurture or a combination of the two, but I have had to go my own way. And when I don't, I get screwed big time. So I have learned over time that, trying to please others, trying to fit in, trying to play small does not work. It just doesn't work. There's always going to be that dissonance, that spiritual and psychological dissonance that, you're never in sync. You're never in sync with yourself. You're never in sync with anybody else, because you're living on a false premise. You're living somebody else's idea of what your life is supposed to be. And that just can't work. It doesn't work.
I want to applaud that if I can for a moment, Sheila. I apologize for jumping on that one, but you hit a lot of points that I really do absolutely agree with and can resonate with. in the past couple months, I actually did a lot of letting go and going with the flow of the universe, trusting it, whatnot. I'm making a lot of immense strides. You are very right. We may not be in the place that we're supposed to be. There are questions that we all have on a daily basis. Where are we meant to be? What are we supposed to do and whatnot? I discovered that this has been my calling for the longest time and had been doing this for over 17 years, but just now professionally, as Joan and the other lovely lady that's here with us today know. But I agree with you. If you don't know and understand yourself, how can you know where you are meant to be if you don't follow through with knowing who you are, how you heal, finding answers for yourself that define who you are and explain how you are, finding out where you may end up in the future, where you may shine the best. You got to know yourself as much as you can. But sometimes, I will have to say, based on my experiences, depending on where you go to discover that journey, you may accidentally stumble upon it without even realizing it. You also have to go out and see what you are too. You got to put yourself to the limit. You got to test yourself, see what you're capable of doing, knowing who you are, and then stepping out to the light of the world and displaying yourself and be the best you can be.
Very much so, Travis. And you know, when relationships start with us from before, with our parents, they are the first ones that love us and so on. And sometimes they love us from before we are in the womb. When you teach your child, Sheila, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, you start the understanding that love is not to be projected outwards. Love is to include what is outward. And so when a
Amen.
child knows that, the child understands the Bible principle that says you must love others as yourself and not more than yourself. What we do is that we cultivate this thing where we reward compliance and we feel that compliance is our relationship. Compliance is not relationship. When people obey us because we are the bigger boss or we have their future in our hands, whether it is our children or it is in our organizations or even in our relationship with our children or siblings because we're the older ones, we sometimes mistake that compliance for being the best child, the obedient, the self-controlled, and so on. And we don't make them or facilitate them making choices sometimes outside of what
True.
we desire as even parents, bigger siblings, or persons who are leading organizations. And so we must stop rewarding compliance so Travis people can know where they are seated, who they are, what is it that they are led to do, what is it they are capable of doing. And when that happens, then we are now able to make people become masters of their own destiny. And so their innovation, their
Yes.
authentic self,
Yes.
their innovative self is always brought to the table. And there can be a fair exchange of accepting people for who they are. And that's
Yes.
part of the problem because sometimes, even when we have reached a stage, because many times maturity doesn't walk with age, maturity for me walks
Right.
with experience. And many times it is when we experience what we experience, regardless of the age, that we begin to understand that people are human beings and that everybody must be treated fairly and justly how they present themselves because you live life in the present, you live life as it is. And so sometimes that is why it is so hard for us to accept the things we can't change. Many times we do not do well in relationships because we cannot accept the things we cannot change because we have been cultured to believe that we can. And people are who they are, and people will be themselves. And people grow and evolve and become better persons when
Right.
they understand who they are and what they really are created to be. And that is not determined on external validation. It is clearly what Sheila has said, and I agree totally with you and Sheila. And Michelle, it's knowing yourself and loving yourself because that's your greatest advantage. That's your superpower.
I want to say, I love what you say in the reference of the parental unit, the family structure. And what I want to say, at least, and this is, I know that what I can say right now can, and most likely would have been, the I statements of the lived experience, this is personal, reflective. It wasn't until, like, I'm 40, and it really wasn't truly, I didn't become a mother until almost 30. And the type of dysfunctional family setting that I had grown up in, it wasn't like I had the exposure to anything other than this situation to even know that this was not a healthy dynamic. This was not okay behaviors. This was not acceptable. And then it was becoming the parent where I'm like, okay, in my upbringing, I'm going to be this teacher and teacher. And I love that you guys embrace that philosophy of life. But through my lived experience, what I can say is I've learned that my child is really my teacher and that I'm the student. Because I've had every example of who not to become, where not to go, and what not to do. How like I said, my faith is because I should either be in a prison cell or be in a coffin. And I'm here, and I've kept this little girl alive for 12 years throughout all the adversity we have faced. But what I had to come to realize is I had to love myself enough to stop existing as first living.
Amen.
Being almost 500 pounds, I was not going to live for her and to be her guide, and through that process, she's guiding me. And I'm not her guide. I'm here on this earth to make sure that my child is not being forced into systems and sectors that were not designed for her to fit, because I've had to break every mold and create my own path. And this kid is so much more brilliant than I could have ever thought I would be. And it's my job to nurture that for her to be the most successful contributing member globally to society as she can be. So I love that you guys, I thought that's the system I needed when I had my child. I stayed with a emotionally, verbally abusive drug addict that gave me a child because I thought that societal image was what I had to do. And all I did learn from that entire situation was that I was setting the example and the tone for what she's going to allow in her life. And if I continue to let her see people subject me to these situations or what I tolerate people treating me, I'm only telling her that just because somebody is called a family member, it's okay for them to do this type of not okay behavior. A human is a human, and you treat them a certain way regardless of what the title. And that's why I'm so big on title. Everybody's not your friend. Family is blood, but that doesn't mean that they got your best interest. And I'm going to pass the mic to some.
That's a great question.
I mean, it's funny because I'm looking here at the comments that are coming in from the people who are watching, and one gentleman is saying that disruption could lead to change, which I believe is true. Sometimes it's the chaos that helps us to find our way. Sometimes we have to literally just throw our hands up in the air. It's like, what the hell is going on? That we finally start to break that routine, that wheel that we're on, find a different look, be able to look and see what other alternatives or possibilities are out there. Now, the other comment was that claiming somebody has to love themselves before they can love somebody else. We cannot give to others what we do not have within us.
True.
Absolutely.
It doesn't exist. If you don't have love for yourself, you can't give love to anybody else.
True.
You can't show love because you don't know what it is.
And you can't even appreciate
it for yourself.
It's recognizing
if it's not within you, you can't give what you don't have. If you ain't got $1, you can't give $1 to somebody.
Right.
Simple
I
as
think
that.
it's also recognizing
If you don't
what
have
you're
it, you
giving.
can give it.
It's
Right.
What are you giving with what expectation?
Yeah.
Because me personally, I never give with an expectation of anything in return. But it also comes down to when I give, regardless of what I give, it's with the intention I never want to do anything that ain't going to make the world a better place. I'm giving out of pure, not ill will, but it also has taught me that I struggle to trust to receive. And I have had to learn it's a matter of perception and where I'm okay to give and give and give, and I don't know how to take. I had to learn that balance because of the humility and shame and guilt. You have to work through things internally where people think that maybe what you're doing is malicious because maybe you never asked for anything in return, or you just unsolicited offer to do these things where people tell you they're amazing, but in your mind you're just like, I just want to help. You know, I had to like really come to terms like a lot of humility and a lot of shame and guilt because it was, but these are the things that have labeled me resilient, have labeled me an advocate, have labeled me a leader. Like I didn't seek the titles. I live by my word. I walk I do what I say. I think that is where the relationships that are meant to be continue to grow. You know, and our leadership, it's not about control. It's really the complete opposite. It's being okay not being in control. It's meeting somebody where they're at.
Very much so. I see a comment in the chat that talks about self-care and self-love. And I want to address it a little because some persons believe that self-sacrifice, becoming a martyr, is the full crumb of love, but it is not.
No.
And so we give everything that we have, and it comes from a point you have made, Michelle, that you keep giving, and then you have this guilt. You see, when you are always there for everyone except for yourself,
Right.
you are actually teaching people that you are not worth much.
True.
And you are finding also that persons who you have given this type of pouring into live and begin to expect that you will always be there for them, and that you don't have any need, and that you don't need support, and that you are not in need of everything. Let me give an example. Sometimes we have friends and family members who always come to us to borrow money or to take from us, or they have a burden and they're always there. But you look at when you go to them and they can genuinely help you. They wonder, how is it that you came to me? Because you are always there for me. So they don't consider that this is really a need. And for her to come or him to come, it must mean that something is going on. They begin to look and query you. So what about that you, and why don't you do this? They become great advisors to you because they are in shock that you are not in a position to be always there for them. And they are so upset too that the fact that you came might just be that when they were planning to come back, no, they will have to consider. And they were not thinking of going to anyone else. We want to be careful of self-sacrifice. For self-sacrifice would make us believe that we must always be giving to our children, to our spouse, and so on, and that we must always be there for them. And guess what? The moment you are not there, you will realize that they are able to be there for themselves. And so I am coming back to self-care. Self-care means that you balance who you are, that you pour into yourself and nurture yourself enough that when you are pouring out, you're actually not pouring from an empty cup.
Right.
And that's really what self-care is. Self-absorption is not self-love. When it is all about you, and when it is what I say and no other say, when it is my way or the highway, that is self-absorption. That's not self-love. Because self-love is synonymous with self-care. It is synonymous with self-control. It is synonymous with teaching people to fish and not constantly giving people fish. And it is synonymous with setting boundaries and saying no for the better of the person you are saying no to, and saying yes when you are to say yes, and saying wait when you are to say wait. The problem that we have in unbalanced relationship is that someone is always saying yes. Someone is always going the extra mile. Someone is always serving. It is not a mutual beneficial relationship. If that is not happening, then you really need to take a check, because you are not in a relationship. You are in a transaction.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I wanted to say a couple things real quick, if I can. I apologize.
Yes, Travis.
This is first one is to Michelle, real quick. You were saying something about your
I would
daughter. You know,
I would
stuff.
agree. Oops. Sorry.
It's okay. Michelle, you were saying something about your daughter, saying that she's so much more brilliant than you. You said that earlier about that. I want to chime in on that. No, she just knows different things than you do. You're still a very brilliant individual. Just because she knows different things doesn't mean that you were stupid or less intelligent than she is. I don't want anyone ever to think themselves as stupid for as long as I breathe and I see you, because just because you know different things or they know different things does not make you stupid or unintelligent or make them smarter than you. They just know different things compared to you. That's one. And two, real quick, just to make a point on leadership, on how what we're discussing here. I'm a Army combat veteran, as most of you know who know me. Have seen me on quite a few occasions here. I have seen many men older than me, and I have been in the service longer than me, make the absolute dumbest decisions you have ever thought of. And these guys are in positions of leadership, and here am I, private first class, going, I got a smarter way of doing this or a better idea. Can I say something? And they, no, apparently can't. Because they're in that position of power and they have that hubris and arrogance, thinking that everything that they say is right. They won't hear an outside point. In a relationship, it's very different. As long as you, in a relationship, it's a co-leadership. That's dual partnership. Both lead. Now, at the same time, there's going to, like say, if I'm in a relationship with someone, there's going to be things that I can lead in that I'm good at. They're going to take a back seat or sit, not a back seat. They're going to sit in the passenger seat. You know, I'm going to let them have one hand on the steering wheel because, you know, they're going to have that little safe net caution thing, you know. But there's going to be times where they're going to lead and I'm going to fall because they're going to know it better than I can. It's not about who's going to control the relationship head on, right? Start all the way to the end. It's about knowing what you're good at, knowing what they're good at, where they're smart, where you're smart, letting one hold the control at a time. That's what leadership is, knowing when to pass the baton and when to take the baton. That's how it will work in a relationship. Or that's how it should, in my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you for your service, Travis.
You know I
think
hate
that you're right, Travis, in that there should be equal give and take. There should be balance in relationships. I mean, there will be times.
Oh, go ahead. No, I'll just say it's a good conversation.
There will be times in relationships where it's not 50. Yeah, it's not. It's a relationship from time to time, whether it be a business or a professional or personal relationship. There will be times where it's not 50-50. There will be times where it's 70-30 or 80-20 or 90-10. I mean, I know from personal experience, having been a carer for but during that time, it became 90-10 or 90, you know, or I was the one giving and he was the one receiving. But so there will be times where the scales kind of dip and balance. But if for the most part, there is balance, there is equal give and take, so that neither one feels put upon or burdened by a relationship. I think that is the way it should be. There should be balance. It shouldn't be all one-way traffic on either side. And I look at the comments about people pleasing or giving and not receiving anything in return. And relationships are about two people, at least, being involved with one another in some kind of way, whether it be a personal or professional relationship. But if that relationship is not equal in terms of, it doesn't have to be a monetary transaction, but there has to be a sense of equal give and take in some form or fashion, then the relationship can work. But it will be impossible if there is, it's all one-way traffic. One's taking it all and the other's giving it all. That's just not right. It's not fair. It's not balanced. Nature loves, if you look at nature, nature loves balance. It does not like a vacuum. It does not like imbalance. So
Now,
whether you're talking
But
about, our individual lives or the universe, there has to be balance.
But you know what? In response to what you just said, Sheila, is absolutely, you're spot on. I think one of the challenges is that many people are fearful of stepping up and taking their rightful place in leadership.
Yes.
And unfortunately, again, leadership. When I speak of leadership commonly, I'm not necessarily speaking of leadership from a view or perspective from an organization, because I think first you have to be able to lead yourself out of your own matters first.
Absolutely.
True.
And so well before an organization is on the
Yes.
scene. And I think that's the challenge, is that people have taken a back seat to the things. Thank you, Holy Spirit. People have taken a back seat to the very things that are that have taken place in their lives, good, bad, or indifferent. And at some point, I believe what happens is that every experience comes with an emotional attachment, an emotional connection, feelings, words that help to paint that canvas, so to speak. And a lot of times, because we have dealt with different challenges within those different experiences, what happens? What happens is that we leave the feelings behind, and we try to take on something else, or as life leads us to a different position or different opportunities, we try to take on something else, or different relationships. We try to take on different relationships and dealing with people on some level, whether it be a job or a personal relationship or intimacy, whatever the case might be. We try to take on these new things without the feelings, without having to understand the feelings behind them. And when we understand the feelings behind the different experiences, we can go on to the next level. But unfortunately, a lot of us have not understood the feelings that have come with the different experiences, and we left the feelings behind. And so now we've got a conglomerate or a gamut of different feelings that we have not worked out. And because we have not worked these feelings out, they begin to cloud our judgment, either in picking someone who is going to be our lifetime mate, or if we're dating. All these factors I believe, play into us making decisions, and eventually having to gone through so much stuff. But ultimately, it's again a gamut of different feelings that we have not worked out, and because we have not worked them out, the old saying, the psychologists say, is that hurt people hurt people.
I want to piggyback, because hurt people can heal people. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And I think in my circumstance, when you take the time to heal yourself, you only want to project the ways to help others understand that.
But you're no longer hurt anymore, though. At some point, when you heal, you're not hurt anymore.
I think that grief comes in stages, and I think that depending on what created it, there's some things that'll never fully heal, but you learn how to keep living and not existing.
Well said, Michelle.
If that makes sense.
It does.
And I wanted to piggyback really quick with what you were saying was, when it comes to relationships, personal, private, self, professional, I've been recently doing, studying psychology. And one thing I'm learning is that somebody like myself that has been in extreme traumas, complex PTSDs, things of that nature, you really need to find a partner, regardless, that is understanding that the trust issues you got to fix. It can take up to 2 years to trust somebody at a level of that type of connection that some people just instantly freely give. But then they don't want to understand or take the time to try to learn why would this be why, and then they don't invest. And then they don't understand that nurturing that foundation, those 2 years in the reality of the rest of your life is nothing.